What's up, guys? This is Carl from Rare Candy, and welcome to my first video. So if you haven't seen, I'm the newest member of Rare Candy, and what I'm going to be bringing to the channel with me is a lot of player interview things, meta discussions, stuff like that. Ways for me to connect with the player base in a way that maybe some other YouTube channels haven't necessarily done before. So to start that all off, I did do a introduction video last week on the channel, so you can check that out and familiarize yourself with me a little bit if you'd like to. But otherwise, today we're going to be having a 2019 World Championship and DC Open meta discussion with three players that obviously have qualified for Worlds and have put a lot of testing in and definitely know their stuff. I have Michael Catron, I have Charlie Lockyer, and I have Emery Taylor. And these players have a lot of their own credentials and have had some pretty good seasons this year, and I'm really happy and privileged to have them join me. Michael, to start off, got probably his favorite credential to me. First of all, he's known a lot for playing a lot of meme decks and doing really well with them, and a top 16 at Hartford this season in May with ReshiZard. Played a couple times on stream. He says it's his proudest credential to date, and you should check those videos out if you can. They should be archived somewhere on YouTube. Really cool deck, really creative mind. Happy to have him here for the video. Charlie, probably best known for his 9-0 top 8 with Lost March at Roanoke Regionals this past November. Lost March was kind of a new fledgling archetype at the time, and nobody really knew how to play it or build it right except Charlie. And with the power of Lost March and Let Loose, he's able to do some things, and it really caused a lot of buzz, and it was a really cool thing to see happen that weekend. I was there and I saw it all. And lastly, we have Emery Taylor. Emery does so much media, and he's a really friendly and creative person. And obviously, Emery best known for his top 2. I want to say second. We'll say top 2 at NAIC this year with PikaRom. Really friendly player, has been coming up in the game for a little while. Really nice to know. Really great player, too. And these three guys are going to talk to us a little bit about decks they've been testing for Worlds, things they like, things they don't like. And we're going to introduce a little bit of an element of their view on developing as a player as well. So, guys, I just want to welcome you to the channel and thank you all for joining me today. How are we doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Cool, man. Okay, so I'll just kind of moderate, I guess. We're gonna start with Michael, and what I'd like to know, Mike, is your top 2 to 3 plays heading into Worlds. For anybody that's playing in Worlds or the DC Open, what are your thoughts regarding top 2 or 3 plays?
What my top 2 or 3 plays are probably my top 2 are definitely Dark Box and Blacephalon. Dark Box has kind of been getting the stigma of bad start, very inconsistent. I think the deck's pretty consistent, can be built pretty aggressively, and in this format you need to be very aggressive because the outlier decks that are just uncontested very strong are Reshi and PikaRom, and those decks are just insanely aggressive. So you need a deck that can potentially deal with those threats of the tag teams on turn 1 or 2, and I feel like Dark Box and Blacephalon both have the options to be able to do that. If I were to name a third deck, I'd probably go with Porygon Nagandadel. Just pretty fun deck. Really enjoy playing that. So, okay. But if you're looking for a safe play, I'd play PikaRom.
Okay, as far as Dark Box goes, have you had any trouble setting up? What's the Sneasel line looking like? I think there's a lot of different ways to play it from what I've been through. I've tried everything from 2-2 Weavile to 4-3. And I don't know, I think it's a very hard deck to figure out. Do you have any additional thoughts on the best way to play it as far as the Pokemon line goes? Anything neat that you could try out leading up to Worlds?
My Dark Box list isn't too special. Mm-hmm. I think the main thing is that you want your main supporter to be a 4 of Lily. Just, you need the extra draw on turn 1. You can't run Fan Club because you're not going to be able to get everything you need. Mm-hmm. So you have to run a Lily engine, and then you want your secondary supporter to be Hapu. A lot of people think this card's bad just because you're discarding resources, and it's not of course you do have the chance of getting a bunch of cards that would be really bad to discard. But with
Sure.
something like Dark Box, it's very unlikely to do that because there aren't really cards you don't want in your discard pile. Like, even if you hit your one of Sabotar and you need 2 other cards, you still have Mew Mew to copy Sabotar from the discard. Your Weavile line should be probably about a 3/3 line, so discarding some of that's not a huge deal. Naganadel should also be a 3/3 line. Getting Darks in the discard is very important. The other thing I would say is your deck should have a Rayquaza GX in it. This card's very important in getting down the energies you need fast enough.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for all that. That's really insightful, actually. Hapu's not a card I particularly considered because of the fear of dropping things that I feel like could be potentially important down the road. And so to hear somebody accomplished talk about it in a positive way is really helpful. So thanks, Mike. Charlie, what do you got? Top 2 or 3?
All right, so it's a little sad to hear out of me because I've really not liked playing decks with tag teams in them the entire season. I mean, I just like to counter them and play one prize decks that can trade favorably because I don't find them particularly enjoyable to play. But my top option right now is PikaRom. I think it's the only deck that keeps true consistency. Like, it feels like a pre-rotation deck to me. Well, everything else feels like a completely new mess. And I've always had a theory that right after rotation, when there's the least amount of cards in the format, that the simplest decks are usually the best way to go. Like, a couple formats ago, Ho-Oh Kiawe was one of the best decks in the post-rotation format. ReshiZard kind of models that now, at least, where it's just like, oh, I do one thing, and I do one thing really well, because there's not enough options in this format, not enough good cards to play to actually pull off all these other tech things that might make decks better. Like what happened with Zoroark before. I think the people trying to model Zoroark with, like, Naganadel and such are really not going to be in for a good time because it's just not simple enough and doesn't have enough options at the moment. And then number 2 is probably Guardian at the moment because the Gardevoir Sylveon with greens and such, because I think it has a lot more countering options to, like, hard counter things. Well, I think in comparison to ReshiZard, which is just a deck I don't like, it's not as much raw strength, but it has, like, the immunity options, which I think could be really good. I just haven't found the right way to build it yet. That's the problem.
Have you seen mine?
And then I have not seen your list.
Okay, keep going.
And I'm going to look at it, though, at one point. And then my third option, if I had to list one, is something that I probably haven't built yet, probably haven't thought of it yet. I've tried to mess with so many things in this format. It's so hard to build things without the search options. That's my biggest problem. But maybe I could figure out something else to work. Like, I've played a bunch of crazy decks this year. If I can get a reliable search engine for one of them, maybe it'll spark to the top of my list. And also, notably, I think Malamar sucks, and I would never consider that as an option regardless.
So that's funny that you say all those things, Charlie, because we pretty much share the same exact thoughts regarding Worlds and the DC Open. So Guardian's a deck that I've been testing extremely hard every day against everything, and I actually don't think it's too bad, but you take kind of a rougher Reshi matchup. But that matchup doesn't seem as bad if they just... This is kind of dumb, but if they don't have turn 1 Welder, which in my testing, I never have turn 1 Welder. It seems too perfect. Things get really manageable. And you actually you beat unprepared lists very badly. There's really not a lot
My strategy is to abuse the stamp and the GX attack.
Yeah.
Like, I get like 8 energies on the board a lot and just sacrifice prizes, try to stamp them out of something, do damage. Hopefully they don't heal down to less than 60. Then you can, like, abuse tag switch or something, put them to 0 and take a knockout, and then just run them over from there.
Yeah, and then being able to use 2 or 3 power plants is just outrageous.
Strong
card.
I think I play 3 or 4 on my list right now. Yeah. It's just so good.
I play 3. And then the deck could do so many things, and it's really cool to hear you mention that. I'm actually of a similar mindset when you talk about a new format or like a blind meta. I feel like people try to do too much at times, and the simplest decks with it has the best searching options without a doubt. And those kind of simple things I think are often the best, but people kind of outthink themselves in a way.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do has been looking back at, like, past Worlds and seeing what's been successful. Like, last year we had a pretty solidly consistent Zoroark list. Like, Zoroark drew cards. Then we had Guardy. That was one of the least consistent options. But we look back at, like, Blastoise. That was super consistent. in 2013 we had Darkrai, and that was like the most straightforward list ever. In 2011, a straight Reshifusion deck, which was super consistent. And then the Lux Chomp that won in 2010 ran 4 pot, and that's the format that I think is the most similar to now. And that's for Cynthia, for anyone who doesn't know what the cards back then did. But I think that deck is one of the most similar to PikaRom, and one of the reasons why I'm liking it is because it's looking back at Yuda's Lux Chomp, where I have a bunch of search options that feel like what Cyrus's Conspiracy did by playing Volkner and other cards that search, and it has just by far the best engine to find everything that it needs.
Right. Yeah, and I'm always in favor of those decks that just kind of have the engine built into it, like Dedenne being so easily searchable and that kind of stuff. And to go a step further into what you were saying, Malamar, I kind of view Malamar the same way. Coming into the format like a month ago, before things were, I think, as tested and played out, I think Malamar will always just have hype. Like I feel like it always has, and then it never returns on that kind of hype. Playing the deck has always felt very bad to me. How many games would you say you've played with Malamar, Charlie?
I have played 0. I've never played the deck in my life. I don't own Malamars. I've watched a lot of people play it.
Okay. I
play against it a lot.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I find myself playing against it all the time. What are some of the perceived problems you have with that deck?
It falls apart too easily. I mean, the reason why it's better than it was last format, although some people somehow found success with the last format, is because the loss of Guzma helps it. Mm-hmm. I think because they can't target down Malamars as easily. But there's still cards like PikaRom can tag Bolt GX to knock one out. The new Naganadel can snipe one to knock it out. Other Malamar decks and other spell tag decks have weird options like Espeon Deoxys EX and Ultra Necrozma, which are in Malamar decks, but Malamar just becomes fragile.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really hard to protect.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Cool. Emery, let's get to you. What are we thinking here? Top 2 or 3 plays that you've messed around with or thought about? Where are you headed?
Yeah. So like my biggest issue with this format is the fact that like reset stamp exists. Because every single time I play a greens list, I play like 5 games, and the first 4 games, the deck is like super good. It draws really well. You know, you play greens basically, and then they like stamp you to 1. You're like, okay, next game. And so that has been a real like hampering for me thinking about decks that I like to play, because every just stamp is just so like difficult to deal with, and other ways of mitigating that like Mismagus or Acrobike feel really shaky to me. It reminds me a lot of when I played like Greens, Reshi, and Madison, and sometimes you would just get let loose at the end of the game and lose. And so that's like, I don't know, these sort of decks where you build up these really large hands are really, really vulnerable to hand control and to hand disruption. And so that's been like hard for me to deal with. So with that being said, Pika is still my top pick. Like Charlie said, I think it is worth noting that I'm not sure if the Jirachi version is strictly better than the non-Jirachi version right now, but I'm pretty confident it is. It lets you play around plant better. It lets you play around reset stamp better. I don't know. I think the Jirachi version, it's just its consistency. It flows smoother. But giving up the 1 prize has been a little problematic sometimes, especially when you run so many Dedennes and stuff like that. It means your opponent can more or less circumvent knocking out 2 tag teams, which makes it a lot weaker than decks like ReshiZard or Gardevoir.
Right.
So Pika, I would definitely say is my top pick. Going into an AIC, a lot of people would say, Pika just doesn't lose. And, if anything, an AIC in the last few cups I've played in have really proved that. I mean, Pika is one of the best decks in the format. But like Zapdos being so bad now, Guzma being so bad now, Choice Band, well, Guzma non-existing.
Guzma non-existing now.
Yeah, right. Choice Band rotating, hitting those damage mods is really hard, and you can't like put down damage mod, Cynthia, and then hit another damage mod, which makes it a lot worse too. So I'm still not like 100% on Pika, but it's probably my top pick right now. Beyond that, there's just sort of a lot of decks that I haven't played enough games with, but I would kind of like in theory. So like I've played a few games with Ultra Malamar, and I kind of like it, but again, it's Malamar, and I played it in St. Louis, and it was really bad. So I'm kind of like, not as enthusiastic about it. Dark Box I haven't played enough games with, but like Michael said, I think it can be a really consistent, strong deck. And I haven't played enough games to know whether it's good enough. ReshiZard, I feel like is way too linear, and like you're gonna lose to like random decks sometimes, and I don't know. It sort of makes me uncomfortable to think about that. Same thing sort of applies to Gardevoir, but the difference between Gardevoir and ReshiZard is that it can win, just games off of Fairy Charms. So like, I think I would honestly prefer Gardevoir to Reshi right now. So if I had to order them, it would probably be Pika, Guardy, Dark Box, Reshi, and then Ultra Malamar.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of refreshing after what we've been through over the past couple months of getting let loose, and now we don't have Guzma, right? Like,
I miss let loose so much.
I bet you, well, it's your crown jewel, man. Like,
yeah,
that's refreshing, but the decks are the same, and that's what I hate so much about this format.
Agreed.
Yeah, the decks are really similar.
Like, we can't play the fun decks anymore.
Well, I mean, just by virtue of Giratina, right? Like, you can't realistically play a one prize deck, like a neat one that pops tag teams, because you take a bad matchup to Giratina.
With search cards you could, but
yeah, I guess.
Like, I can't play Tool Drop anymore, and that destroyed Giratina, which is very sad.
I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll get lucky. That's
Hopefully
ball
there's a
promo
one-prize
at
deck.
Worlds.
I've been digging so deep for a one prize deck, and if they're not Psychic or Dragon type, or
Grass.
just that's really it. Psychic, Dragon, or partially Grass, as long as it's not stage 2. Then it's like insanely hard to set up. Although the stage 2 Grass is doable because of Rowlet Egg, which is such a cool card.
Here's what you do, man. I'm gonna show you the way. Netball for Grubbin, Super Growth into Vikavolt. That's all you have to do.
Oh yeah, no, I've thought about it. Vikavolt's rotated though.
No.
Which one?
My Vikavolt.
No, we're not playing that card.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna move on. Enough about my great cards that everybody.
You can't search Charjabug, bro.
I know. And super growthing the Charjabug is also really bad. So anyway, Mike, I want to hear the worst deck you tested. Tell me why it's so bad, and I want you to really trash it.
Dude, Malamar sucks. Malamar is so bad. I don't understand how anyone can confidently bring that deck to an event. They're night before, they're sleeving up their deck, and they're just like, yeah, I'm gonna play this Malamar deck. I'm gonna draw 3 Inkays turn 1 every time, and I'm still gonna lose. And like, you can get the turn 2 Tina attack and have like the perfect setup and just still lose because the deck's just not good. Like, you need to have a spell tag every single time. If you get reset stamped and don't get your big attacker, you lose the game. Like, there's just so much that can go wrong, and it's so inconsistent.
Okay, wow, that's scalding. It's a scalding hot take, but I actually agree with you 100%. I've never been a Malamar guy, and I've always kind of thought it was bad. So pretty much since it came out. So Charlie, I think we talked a little bit about Malamar for you a little bit earlier. I need you to pick something else that you tried or theoried about that you don't like, and make it hurt. I want to hear you trash it.
I will, but first on Malamar, I don't think anyone's going to show up with success unless your name is Rukan, because you've played it so much, or you somehow got unbanned and your name is Jeff Kolank and taking your auto invite and playing it again. And,
all right.
But other decks I've tried that I've really, really, really wanted to work include Behem. I've tried so many ways to build that. It is impossible to get super consistent. I don't understand it, because I always wanted to get 3 Pidgeotto in play, so the sleep version didn't really work for me because you didn't have bench space.
Yeah.
I've tried Gumi, I've tried Silvally GX and other things. If Floatstone was in the format, it'd be great. If even Zoroark or any better draw card was in the format, it'd be great. And it's such a cool card. It doesn't do enough damage either. That's the other big issue. If Choice Band was in the format, it'd be great. But we sadly don't have all these options. And it has the best search options too, which is really sad. Because you have Elms to get like Pidgeys, Pidgeottos, and then you have Mysterious Treasure to get your Dragons and your Psychic stuff. But it never panned out. I always thought it would be the best deck, but it never was. Mm-hmm. And then another one I tried Dragonite too. Like Dragonite Stage 2s. With like, I think I played a Greens Engine. It was like 4/4/4. It played like Baby Blowns a lot. Your whole goal was like to Surge and then Lance and Lance into like fast call Dragonite and the other dragon, and then the attacking Dragonite, and you could like abuse Welder every turn because you never missed it. You could abuse other supporters, and you just have a field of Dragonites doing 270 every turn. But it never panned out because you'd get donked too much.
That does sound neat, though. I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how we come back to stage 2s after you guys took an opportunity to take a shot, but okay, that's fine.
It's Dragon, so it counts.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Emery, what's the worst deck you've played in the run-up to Worlds, and why is it so bad?
I played a few games with Ability ReshiZard, and the deck was abysmal. I more or less like. There's something about Ability ReshiZard in this format that doesn't work on a fundamental level, and I don't quite know how to describe it. But it's kind of like every single time you play a game with the deck, you look at your opening hand and you think this is bad. And even when you get those hands which are like Welder double energy ReshiZard, you're like, this is great. You Welder, you whiff energy, and then you lose the game. Or maybe you get turn 1 Flare Starter, and then you like get a Shrine, and you knock out a PikaRom, and then Pika returns, and they say, okay, Raichu, one-shot your only attacker, and then you pick up your cards and go on to the next game. And like even Turtonator or Arcanine or cards like that don't really ameliorate any of your like hard one-prize matchups. PikaRom is too aggressive for you to deal with. Jirachi isn't consistent enough to hit Welder and or Giant Furnace turn 1. But even Palpad doesn't really mean that you can play like Welder all that often. So like the deck is just like I think the same almost applies to Mew decks. I've seen a lot of people really hyping them up, and I don't know. Every single time I play them, I'm like, wow, I didn't hit Welder. Let's go on to the next game. And especially Mew decks that only play like Pokegear Welder, I'm pretty suspicious of, I guess, just because they're playing like 7 fire energy, so you're assuming in your opening hand you're going to start Mew and not ReshiZard or like Latios or Jirachi or any of the other attackers you're playing, and then you're also assuming that you're going to hit Welder double energy and discard enough attackers for the relevant matchups. Like, I don't know, it just seems like Welder-based decks, only Welder-based decks, seem really bad. I just haven't, like, I will say I'm not a fan of Blounds. I played it for a few weeks, and, like, I don't know, it feels super straightforward. I played a lot of games against competent players playing Blounds, and they were just, like, they didn't have options. Like, I would knock out their Ninetales, or they would whiff Custom Catcher, or I would knock out their Persian, or I'd plant their Persian, and then it would be like, okay, next game. And so I actually think the deck is pretty strong on the whole. Like, I liked it. It's just kind of really, really linear. And like Charlie said, I think simple is good, but I think too simple, like simple to the point where you don't have options to play the game, is a step in the wrong direction. So Ability ReshiZard is definitely the worst deck I've tried so far.
Yeah, I've gotten some.
That was such a reversal. We used to love it. We used to absolutely love that deck. We thought
we were about it,
far.
and I just hate it now.
Some of the opening hands I've gotten with that deck have been absolutely unplayable.
Yeah,
like there was a game
really bad.
Yeah, there was a game I played on stream yesterday where I started Volk and I had ReshiZard benched, and I did not draw an out to an energy. It was like Mixed Herb, Switch, Custom Catcher, Shrine. It was like, was it Shrine? I don't know. But there was no out to a supporter, no out to an energy. It was brutal. There's too much going on in that deck, I think. It was absolutely terrible. Don't like it.
Nest Ball was in the format. It'd be great.
Yeah,
right?
It's like so many other things would be.
Yeah.
I think I ran some fan club. I got the list from somebody that I play with, and I don't know. I noped right out of there real quick.
It's probably pretty similar to what I was messing with, or what Will and Charlie and I were all messing with. It's just really bad.
I had to dip out of that. I went to go play Slow Duck.
Yeah. Probably a better deck, honestly.
So fun, dude. Honestly, so fun.
Better deck.
So, we're in the lead up to the World Championship, the most prestigious tournament of the year. And I feel like some people don't take it too seriously, and some people take it really seriously. I feel like for some people it's like a free roll kind of tournament, just based on how they talk and act about the whole preparation thing and getting there and their nature and things like that. What I'd like to learn from you guys, we'll start with Mike. What number Worlds is this for you? What have you learned over the course of competing at Worlds, and what does Worlds mean to you? So we'll start with you, Catron.
I believe this is my 6th Worlds I've played in, 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. As the years go on, Worlds has become less and less of an exciting thing, but it's still always like a fun event to go to. Very like you got there, you know, like it feels good to play in the event. But I don't know. After I finally got like a good performance, it just like it wasn't the same. Like I wasn't trying as hard anymore because I knew I'd already accomplished like what I wanted to accomplish at Worlds. So now it's kind of just like that event where like if I can play something, have fun, that's all I really want to do.
Cool. What is your best accomplishment or finish at Worlds?
I bubbled 9th in 2015.
That was so sad.
Yikes. Okay, Charlie, let's hear from you. What number Worlds is this for you, and what does it mean to you? Is it, let's just hear your thoughts on that.
All right, this is my 4th Worlds. It means a lot to me. I really like this event. I think if you're going to this event and you qualified for it and you care at all about being competitive in this game, or what I'd say is if you feel like you have the right to like be upset after a tournament finished, you better care about this event. Like I know I have a lot of friends who like say, "Oh, I don't care about this event," et cetera, and then they actually seem to care. Like if they're upset after a tournament or something, you have to care about Worlds if you're going to take things that seriously. That's how I feel, at least. I mean, I care a lot about it. I don't understand people who just like walk up and be like, "Screw it, I'm going to play this deck because my friends think it's good," and just change the entire thing the night before. I've seen that work, but I've seen it fail way more times.
Sure.
I put a lot. Every year except this year, I've put an exorbitant amount of time into testing. I just haven't had the chance to this year so far.
Right.
But I think it's by far the most important event. Like my goal is always to win the event. I mean, I think that's one of the best ways I feel really accomplished in this game, because my best accomplishment at Worlds is throwing a match to top 16.
Wow.
Which is really sad and still haunts me for a while.
Yeah. So it's an interesting difference of opinions there. Emery, let's hear from you. What number Worlds is this for you, and what's your approach to the event? How do you think about it?
This will be my 4th Worlds, same as Charlie. This will be my 2nd one in Masters, which is important to note, I think. So like I play for my Worlds invite each year, but like I don't know, I'm probably one of those players Charlie hates, because like every year for Worlds I'm like, man, I just, I love going to regionals, I love going to NAIC this year, I love playing in cups and stuff like that, and Worlds I take seriously and I do my best to win, but it's one tournament. And every year it's the tournament, but it's also, you see players in top 16 who I would confidently admit are better than I am, mess up in day 2, or players even who are competently better than me mess up in day 1, and so I think to some degree there's a lot of pressure based on it, but I think some players also like measure their self-worth on Worlds, and I think you can't measure your self-worth on one tournament ever, I think, but for me, I've never, that's also really hurt me, Charlie's definitely true that like I hate myself after Worlds, typically, because I've done pretty poorly in the past, and I, seniors is sort of a different story, because I really didn't put any work into the game in seniors anyways, and so like I couldn't really be mad when I didn't do well, but in Masters this year, I feel like, I put a lot of work in, I put a lot of time in. It's been a harder year than it was last year, and I really want to like work hard to, get day 2. So
yeah,
I guess I would say if it's your first Worlds, like one thing I would be really clear about is like cute techs don't work at Worlds. Like that's my biggest reasoning for not liking Gardevoir, is because I feel like you're gonna lose to good players, because good players are gonna build their list to beat it, or they're just going to know whatever outs they have to beat it. And, like, I would also just say, like, really take in the experience. You know, like, I remember opening my first Worlds bag, and it was, like, probably one of my best moments playing Pokemon. Well, not even playing, but, like, being a part of Pokemon and being a part of the competitive community. 'Cause it's,
That's
like,
awesome.
it really is, like one of the most wondrous and, like, glorious experiences. And I would also just say, like, remember that you deserve to be where you are. You know, and I say that not in like a, you know, that I guess maybe that sounds rough or something, but like if you've gotten your invite to Worlds, you are just as qualified by Pokemon's measure anyway as someone who's, you know, who's gotten 17th, you know, and maybe in terms of being like a player, you may be, you know, not the best, but it's also you deserve to be where you are, and you're in the upper echelon of the game if you make it to Worlds. So remember that you deserve to be where you are. Really take in the experience, because I think it's the most fun tournament of the year, hands down. And make sure not to like do anything that's too cute, I guess. Like play a rogue deck. Think the rogue deck beats the good decks, but don't put in like little one-of texts that you think might potentially work in some little situation, because on average, good players are going to know how to outplay those decks, and on average, there are going to be more good players at Worlds than there are at a regional or a League Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That
Can I
was
say
really
a few
good.
quick more things?
Yes, definitely.
First of all, I disagree on the one card text things, because I've had a lot of success in the past with one card text at Worlds. My philosophy has always been put something cool in that you've tested the crap out of, but in a good, consistent meta deck. Okay, yeah. So
I don't mean good one card. Like,
Don't play
Raikou
bad
was a
cards at
good
Worlds.
one card deck. Yeah, Lava Pet was a good one card deck, but make sure all your 60 cards.
Like Tapu Fini was a great one card deck. That was my best one. But
yeah, but that's good.
that one worked that year. It won me games,
Right.
unlike the other decks. But you need to. First of all, I'd set standards for yourself. That's one of my biggest things I always do. I've set myself a big rule where, like, I can't I've always used this. It's funny, I've always used the same crappy bag, like the little Reshiram and Zekrom bag from 2012 at tournaments. It's like ripping and stuff. But I've told myself I have to keep using that same bag no matter what happens to it until I get a Worlds bag. Try to, maybe it's a little bit of motivation to go get top 32 for once, because I can't do it for some reason. And also, as Emery said before, taking the experience. If it's your first Worlds, it's quite a spectacle. It's really amazing. And lastly, watch out for cheaters. Especially, this is not in a discriminatory manner, but especially if your opponent doesn't speak English, and there's a language barrier, it's a little bit easier for someone possibly to get an advantage, which is really sad. I've been cheated against and ruled against at every single Worlds I've played in.
Was that miscommunication?
The first time, yes. The second and third time, no. The first time, my opponent definitely used the language barrier to their advantage, which was really sad. But a lot of the players, especially if you don't know who they are, or even if you do, just watch a little more carefully, because it's the highest stakes tournament of the year.
Sure.
And every year we have some sort of scandal.
Agreed.
Yeah, be on your game with people who might be unfamiliar to you, you know. Maybe they're from your own backyard, right? But no matter where they're from, be on your game. Don't sleep through it.
Don't fall asleep in a match. Yeah.
Right, don't sleep through it. Mike, do you have any, kind of in the same vein as what Charlie and Em gave us, any advice or things that you remember to keep in mind or anything like that?
I don't know. Whenever I go in the event, I go in thinking I'm the best player in the room, and I'm trying to win. Like, you should never really sell yourself short. You should never be like, my goal is top 32. My goal is top 16. Your goal should always be to first place.
First place, yeah.
How does that work for you think?
It's actually my first year Masters. I came in with the stigma of I just want to be average. I want to get the day twos, top eights out of my reach. Then during my second and third year as Master, I started like going in like I'm going to win these games, and I did a lot better. I got 2 day twos my first year as a Master, and now I'm getting day two every other regionals
time, yeah.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I think a lot of us.
About that.
Oh, you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, no, he's totally right about that. I've had a lot of opponents sometimes sit down and be like, "Oh, you're going to win," and then I don't think I've ever like lost in a situation where an opponent sits down like, "Oh, you're going to win already," just because they think they're not as good. But I really think that's the wrong mentality to go in. If you feel like, "Oh, I got through Worlds, I was lucky enough to like make it through day 1 to day 2," and then you look at your pairings round 1 and you see Jimmy Pendarvis or someone like that, don't walk up and be like, "Oh, damn, I hit the best player right now. That's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can beat this guy." Walk in and be like, "I'm going to win. I know I can do this." At the end of the day, it's still the same card game. He's not like a god or anything. No one's a god in this game, even if they've won 4 regionals in a year.
Yeah, I disagree with that mentality. I feel like every time I go into a tournament thinking like I'm gonna win these games or like I'm the best player in the room, anytime I lose, I get really like tilted, and that's probably just because I haven't adopted that mentality completely. For me, like, I haven't been as relevant or like as accomplished for as long, and so for me, like the mindset that, like, I don't go into a match thinking I'm gonna lose. Like at NAIC, I played 3 straight world champions, and but I go into a match, just trying to do my best, and for me that helps. Like, because I know what my best is now. I know my best is second at, one of the largest events of the year. And I know my best is on the same plane as these other players. But to some degree, you can't control how you're going to play in a given day. You can't control your matchups. You can't control how you're going to draw. So I think I like to avoid using the word will. Like I will win these games. But I like to, I fiercely want to win every game I play, regardless of who's across the table from me. And I believe I can win every game I play. But, I'm not... What?
Oh, I was going to say, what do you mean by saying you can't control how you play? Because that's another big thing.
So...
You can control how you play.
Well, no, but I think, how... like if you play tennis or you play any sport, there are going to be days where you play better than when you play worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the same thing in Pokemon. Like in NAIC Day 2, I think I played exponentially better than I did in the finals. And that's partially my fault for not sleeping, partially my fault for not, probably playing enough warm-up games beforehand. Mm-hmm. But like I think I played way better then, and I think at Day 2, I think if finals had been on Day 2, I think I would have had a really good chance at winning. Or at least, I think I would have played better, played more to my outs, thought more about it, So, yeah. So that's what I mean. I think sometimes you're going to make misplays. We all do. Like, my misplays are documented for 10,000 people live on stream, and for me, like, that's not indicative of who I am as a player. And I didn't control that. I wasn't like, that was just a situation where I messed up. So that's sort of my thing, where it's like, you control how you play to some degree, but it's not, you're going to make misplays. You're going to mess up, even the best players are. And that's something that you have to be okay with and allow yourself space to function within that medium.
Mm-hmm. You shouldn't get tilted if you misplay. That's my big thing. It's like, don't get tilted if you misplay, but you've got to control what you can control, and what decisions you make is always something you can't control. It's one of the only things you can control. You can't control what cards your opponent has in their deck. You can't control what cards you draw most of the time, but you can control what decisions you make. So first of all, you want to put yourself in the best position to make the best decisions, which means a lot of times, I know a lot of players who don't sleep very much before tournaments. I don't really either, depending on the event. But for Worlds, I always make sure to. Always make sure to eat a lot of food and not get yourself, and drink a lot of water, so you don't get yourself in like a really odd mental state, which happens a lot. Where you're like just not even paying attention to the game state, which has happened to me and many other players before tournaments, where you just lose your trains of thought.
Wow, that's all really good advice, guys.
You really got to control what you can control if you want to win. Because eventually, if you're doing everything that you can right, something's going to go well at some point.
I mean, the thing about believing that you're going to win every game, that's something I struggle with. I get really down after I do bad at events because I feel like I prepare harder than most people. But I just can't, with me, I can't take that step to having that belief. I'm a very average confidence player, and I think I tend to lean more with Michael and Charlie than I do Emery, but Emery's thought process surrounding why he disagrees is super valid to me. As somebody who used to play sports, it's like you have to believe you're the baddest man or woman in the whole room. That's what I think. I think that's when you play best. Always. You're confident in your decisions, you know. And when I haven't felt that way, I've been like, is this right? Is this the right play? And then I'm like, oh no, I'm taking so long. I got to do this, you know. And then like I would just tie or something, and then it never helped. The hardest thing. Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to all those opinions. So that was like a really good organic kind of discussion there. We're getting toward the end here, and I do hope that everybody watching has learned plenty about, you know, how the metagame might shape up to be from the words of 3 really good players. What I'd like to do is give each of you an opportunity to shout out your teams, plug your social media, and maybe give one last thought about Worlds, maybe one last observation about the format, and maybe something you should do before getting to DC. So we'll start with Mike.
So one last thing about Worlds is Rayquaza GX. Very, very good card. I play that card in my Blacephalon deck. I play that card in my PikaRom deck, and I play that card in my Dark Box deck.
Catron's gonna hit a Dark Box round 1 that doesn't play Rayquaza.
And good
flip
card
out on the kid.
Should consider it in every deck. As for Worlds, should always just have a good time. That's the biggest thing. Just make sure you experience World to its fullest.
Cool, man.
As for shoutouts, shout out to Someone's PC. I write for them, and to Nerd Rage Gaming, my sponsor.
Very good. Also, you could follow him on Twitter at BustedCatron. How about that?
He's in fact Busted Catron.
He's pretty. Anybody who knows him knows the truth. He's pretty busted. Go ahead, Charlie.
All right. So final thoughts for Worlds. If you look back on the events again in the past, consistency is king. That's something Jason always said. He won the tournament 3 times. And that's what's driving me to make my deck choices in a format that we really don't understand how consistency works, because we lost Ultra Ball. That card has existed for the entirety of my time playing the game, competitively at least. Same with Double Colorless, cards that we've had forever since when I started when I was like 10, or even I was younger, and Double Colorless still existed. That was pretty insane how now it's gone, and we're playing a completely new format. So I've always just said in this time, consistency is king. You want to make sure you know your deck, and you can play your deck well, and that your deck operates as consistently as you can.
Awesome.
Control what you can control.
Good.
And then for shout-outs, shout-outs to everybody I've tested with recently for Worlds, all the ideas I've gotten. Thanks to all those guys. And shout-out to Top Cut Comics. You can go check out their website and use promo code TCCTeam10. That'll get you 10% off your whole order, and you can get all your Unified Minds cards there. They should arrive before Worlds if you order right now, or anytime before, I think, Monday or Tuesday of next week. I'm pretty sure you can get it shipped there in time. And then lastly, shout out to Brent Burns, obviously the best man alive.
Awesome, thank you, Charlie. Go ahead, Emery.
So I definitely agree with what Catron and Charlie said. For Worlds, I would add one note, which is just that for me, at least in the past, this has been my only international tournament of the year. Some players, are obviously going to go to other ICs and stuff like that, but for me, this has been, my only real international tournament. So while, you want to be cautious and everything with all players, I would say, I would also just say that, make friends. Like I have so many people who I've met from different countries who have been, nothing but kind and gracious, and and have supported me even through my successes and through my failures. And so I would really make a conscious effort to reach out to our international community, because that's one of the most amazing things about Pokemon. It's an international game. And for a high schooler from Minnesota, I'm not going to get many opportunities to speak to people from Brazil, from Denmark, from Germany, from all these countries. And so, make a really active effort to put yourself out there. And I know it's hard to do in Pokemon because, socially people aren't always the best. And obviously you should respect everyone's boundaries. But this is a fantastic opportunity. It really is. If you've made it here, you've been given a fantastic opportunity. And you worked for a fantastic opportunity, and I really think Worlds is the best tournament of the year, without a doubt. Charlie covered the sponsor thing pretty well. I'm also sponsored by Top Cut Comics. It also, supports us on the team and everything, so it really, go order Top Cut Comics, TCC Team 10. Shout out to Minnesota, the Minnesota crew, and to my parents for always, making Pokemon so useful. Shout out to the TCC Pokemon team because they've been, really nice to me this last month and really helpful. And shout out, go follow my Twitter at RoarChomp, spelled exactly like it sounds, RoarChomp, for memes and general musings on the Pokemon training. And yeah, thanks for having me, Carl.
Cool, you're welcome. I think that was a really, really valuable and great discussion. So I wish you guys all the best of luck heading to Worlds. I'm going to see all of you, sure talk to you plenty of times, maybe room with one of you. As for me, like I said in the beginning of the video, my name is Carl. Some of you know me, some of you might not, but I was editor of Rare Candy recently, and my intro video came out about a week and a half ago. These are the kind of videos you can expect from me, bringing people in the game from different areas together, maybe some people who know each other, maybe some that you haven't seen before, but you should know about. Getting into different things like player development, what to expect, how to get better. That's the kind of content that I like to provide. So if you could like, share, subscribe this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. We'd sure appreciate that. And if you want to take your support of our channel a little step further, consider subbing on Patreon or consider buying merch from rarecandytcg.com. We have a couple shirts, a couple mats, dice bags, things like that. Like I said, my name is Carl. For Michael, Charlie, and Emery, we wish you guys all really good luck at DC. Safe travels. I'm sure if you see any one of us, you can come up and say hi. Tell us what you thought about the video. But until next time, guys, everybody take care.